Hello, and welcome to the Odoo Experience 2024. My name is Tommaso Bellelli, and today I will present a customer success story with HeiQ and Rhapsodoo. I present myself a little. I've been working with Rhapsodoo and on Odoo implementation projects since the end of 2020. And I love Odoo because it is a software that with the user interface and the user experience make it very easy to go to the market and being able to go to production, going live. What happened between HeiQ and Rhapsodoo? We started a long-term partnership at the end of 2021 to unify all software in one solution, in a CRM and ERP solution. HeiQ had more than 4 continents and more than 16 legal entities, and we managed to do a big bang go live with all these entities. But what is HeiQ? Let's explore our partner. HeiQ is a leader in biotech ingredients and specialty chemicals, being at the top of the market, creating very high-performance textiles and materials applied to products. HeiQ always been very focused on innovation, okay? So they have a very strong focus on academic research, trying new things and exploring new ideas for the markets. What is the challenge of today? We go straight to the challenge of today. As you know, medium and large enterprise, especially working globally, they have to answer international accounting standards. So in this case, IFRS. The IFRS 15, okay, states the fact that you can recognize the revenue only when you transferred the goods or the services to your customer. I made a very easy infographic for you to understand that everything starts with the sale order, then there is a delivery part, okay, but accordingly to international accounting standards, what also Fabian was saying in the keynote of the first days of the Odoo experience, you can only recognize revenues, okay, when you transferred this risk to your customer. So legally, you can't recognize the revenue before. What are the challenges we encountered in Odoo, and how the process design with HeiQ product owners and the team really made the job easy and very linked to Odoo standard. We tried to understand what were the challenges with Odoo, with the software, okay? And we identified the, let me say, the main ones, okay? The 4 ones, the one that were the main pain points. First of all, the Incoterms in Odoo are not per company nor per country, so they're shared across your multi-company environment, and this might result in a problem. The second one, the payment terms are only linked with the invoice date, okay? So your due date of your payment terms on invoice will always be linked with your invoice date, meaning that the software is a bit limited in this sense. And third, there is no concept of this transfer of risk date. Yes, there is the delivery. Yes, you can move the goods out of stock, but there is no concept of the transfer of risk date. And therefore, these 3 points altogether, they do not allow a proper revenue recognition accordingly to the IFRS. So just a bit of terminology for people who are not really into the Incoterm. What is an Incoterm? It's an international standard for transportation, okay, which defines your delivery point, the transfer of risk, and the cost associated to them, okay? It is especially used, again, into global trades and when companies are mainly selling and purchasing goods, okay? Just to give you some examples, you have the X work, so mainly the seller provides the good at their premises and then is the buyer who has the full responsibility. Or, for example, the free on board, okay, so the seller has responsibility to deliver the goods on top of a ship, okay, and at that moment, he can recognize the revenue. At that moment, the entire risk goes to the buyer. Or, for example, a more complete one that is called delivery duty paid, where the seller bears the responsibility of everything. So basically delivering to the end location with all custom clearance and all costs related to it paid. So how we developed our Rhapsodoo solution. At Rhapsodoo, we really like to enhance Odoo standard, because we know that at the end, sticking to the standard makes sure that you can migrate better and that you have less costs associated with the maintenance of the software. Okay, so we didn't. We focused on those challenges that we saw before, okay? Those were our starting point, and we didn't want to develop any new model or complicated features, okay? So we really wanted to make sure that those challenges were addressed in a correct way, and I'll show you how. We did basically made a little modification on the Incoterms, so now they're defined per country and per company, meaning that again, in your multi-company environment, some companies can use one Incoterm, some other companies another Incoterm, depending on their businesses. But also, very important, this is related with the delivery address, okay? So the delivery address of your sale order permits for you, with these two fields, the allowed countries and the allowed country groups, to use some particular Incoterms. And this is how we overcome the first challenge. The second challenge was the payment term. And here the feature is slightly more complex, but not entirely. We added a new logic for trigger. Okay, so we kept the invoice date, which is the standard functionality, but we also added the shipment date. Okay, so now your payment term is really linked when the delivery transfer will be validated. And the third trigger is now the transfer of risk date, so entering this concept to fulfill the Incoterm, okay? So the transfer of risk date linked to the payment terms permits for your invoice to have a due date, so the time you should get paid, the time it will be okay, not with the invoice date itself, but more with this concept of the transfer of risk date, okay? Of course, we needed more dates in the model transfer of Odoo, so the normal stock picking, the delivery operation, and so we added two fields here, okay, but two dates. One is the date of risk transfer that we talked about, of when you fulfill your Incoterms, and therefore you're allowed to recognize revenue. The other one is an expected transfer of risk date that allows the user, in the moment that the goods have been shipped, to fill this field with an expected date that still will allow the company in controlling cash flow and understanding when that invoice will be expected to be recognized, okay? So not to leave that moment in time from when the goods are shipped and the Incoterm is fulfilled, not having this information of when it will happen. And lastly, to make sure that the revenue recognition is fulfilled correctly, but still keeping the Odoo standard, we had to connect all this information with the invoice. So on the invoice, we added the delivery and the date of risk transfer and the expected date of risk transfer, which is field related entirely with the delivery. Basically, we took the same logic that you have with the three-way matching that you have on purchase order, but we brought it on sale order, meaning that you cannot invoice a customer if you really didn't deliver those goods, okay? Because especially, again, in global trades and complicated markets where you move hazardous goods, dangerous goods, where the logistic part is really important, and when you have to fulfill this Incoterm to recognize the revenue, you want to link this delivery to your invoice. Of course, you will have other documents like pro forma invoices and custom clearance to make sure that your goods travel safely, but the invoice is still the main concept in Odoo for recognizing the revenue. And therefore, what are the steps for this revenue recognition? So you confirm a quotation, a normal sale order in Odoo, of course, selecting the correct Incoterm accordingly to the delivery address, as we saw it before. You deliver the goods with your transfer, so with your stock picking, adding the information of the expected transfer of risk date or the transfer of risk date automatically. Imagine you sold it at X work, and so the Incoterm is fulfilled as soon as the goods get out of your stock. 3, you create the invoice linked with the delivery, so it remains in draft, but you know that it's an expected payment term and is an expected transfer of risk date. And by connecting this field with the related delivery, these are linked. Now, when the transfer of risk date is filled in, so for example, with the free on board, when your items are charged on the boat, or if we're talking about delivery duty paid, when you receive the confirmation that your goods arrived with everything paid, the custom duties and so on, at the customer premises, okay? You fill in the transfer of risk date, and this gets automatically assigned to an invoice. Very easily, without overcomplicating things, we created an automated action for which, when the transfer of risk date is filled in, okay, the accounting department is informed with an email address. Of course, everything can be configured, and the invoice posted, meaning that you reduce the risk of manual error or waiting for an invoice to be posted. What are the key takeaways of this work that, in my opinion, was really well done because we identified the key challenges that Odoo had. We spent a lot of time in defining what were the key pain points, and instead of starting developing a very complex solution or developing from zero without knowing where we wanted to go, we managed to pinpoint what was actually needed for a minimum viable proposition. That is most often what can work on the implementation project. And therefore, we tackled the challenges in global trades. For example, again, different payment terms across different countries, a strategic use of Incoterms, because maybe one company is a distributor, another company serves a particular market, so you have different contracts and different Incoterms per geography or per business unit. We did optimize the payment terms, because again, at the end, the payment terms is a very powerful contract term, okay, but Odoo is very simplified in being attached only to the invoice date, so we wanted to expand this opportunity. And we didn't, again, created anything externally or with a, custom module, so it's all seamless, integrated within the Odoo ERP and its own ecosystem. And therefore, we saw in HeiQ and together that the financial accuracy and all the revenue recognition that was happening wrongly is now, let me say, accordingly to the FRS, to the international standard, but also helps the team, the service team, with cash flow provision and to being more precise. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer them.
So does it? I got one question here.
Okay.
Just waiting for it to be written. All right.
Hi. Thank you for this presentation. I think it's an interesting solution that many other companies who do international trade could use, especially that it doesn't use any third-party app. So really, thank you very much. I have a question. So you mentioned that you work with this company, HeiQ, for 4 years now, implementation. You mentioned Big Bang and other concepts. What are some of the challenges that you've encountered in the past 4 years? And what are some of the solutions and methodologies that and approaches that helped you overcome those challenges? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would say that in any implementation project, I would define the challenges in two main topics. One is about communication, and the second one is basically, again, on the minimum valuable proposition. A lot of the time, we tend to think that we want to have everything and straight away. So we think at the very end solution. And within HeiQ and a very strong team working in agile methodology, we understood that in reality the value that you deliver to your customer it's greater when you're able to release faster. And therefore, we focus to overcome these challenges in having session in order to do some processes designs together with the users and the product owner in order to define what are those minimum viable processes, solution and product in order to be able to deliver value to the customer fast. At the same time, I think communication is really important. Sometimes teams are changing, people are changing. When an implementation project goes long and there is a long partnership, also players and stakeholders are changing. If the communication on what you want to reach it's very clear and the communication is transparent between the two parties, the customer and the partner, because at the end they both want the same result, which is again value, then this challenge can be overcome and everything can work smoothly. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the Odoo experience. Thank you for staying with us.